Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Hope you are well today. So let's jump into things, see where we're at for today. Spaceweather.com. Spaceweather.com. Solar wind 371.6 kilometers per second. Planetary K index at the moment is 0. Could get as high as a 1. However, we do have a big old corona hole that we can see right there. It's going to send some wind down to the planet, and we'll see if this opens up any more. Remember, we had the big triangle right here at one point, and this is kind of moving in the direction of a triangle, but we got a ways to go yet. M-class flares only 35% chance today, so that's up a little bit from yesterday. And our geomagnetic storm activities about the same, maybe a little bit lower. So kind of a quiet day from the sun. Okay, here's one last decaying spot, 1618. That's the sunspot we've been paying attention to. It says it erupted on the 27th and produced an M1.6. So an M-class flare. We may feel some effect of that, but pretty much our Earth did a good job of blocking that. It says here, as dawn begins on Wednesday morning, look southeast to find Venus and Saturn less than 2 degrees apart in the constellation Virgo. Venus is very bright, Saturn much less so. So remember, we've got this alignment coming up on the 23rd that involves Venus and Saturn, as well as Mercury and Mars. So things seem to be lining up. From the astrological standpoint here, right here today, we are at the same sun sign, Sagittarius, so we're dealing with issues of expansion, issues of truth, higher learning, higher ideals and thoughts. Fire is the element, and Archangel Michael. Where underneath, unconscious, today we're at Gemini. Gemini is an air sign. So we've got air underneath. Air is words and actions. The words and actions we speak to express the ideas that the universe presents to us and through us. So today is a day of communication, also a day of discernment, because Gemini in the tarot is represented by the card of the Lovers, which is all about using our discrimination or discernment to be able to look at situations and understand what the situation is and what it isn't. It's very important to be able to use that sense. Discernment is a gift of the spirit, and we need to be able to learn and discern because there are so many things on this planet. And a lot of people get fooled by a lot of things, and a lot of people don't know how to use their sense of discernment. But there are a lot of people that do, and those that do certainly know from the ones who don't that they have a little different outlook on the way things are. We also have a lunar eclipse, so I have to check to see where exactly the eclipse will be able to be seen. Don't have that information right at the moment. Moon phase, we can see we're at 100% full. Today's the day of the full moon. We are at a two-tone day on the Mayan Oracle. Two-tone. The second tone is called the lunar tone of challenge. The lunar tone of challenge. It's represented here in the second position on our wave spell with the theme of abundance, dreams and abundance. So we're at the challenging aspect. Not only challenging, but it's the seed, so we're planting. So we're challenged in our planting of our ideas along the way of these dreams and intuitions. Sometimes the challenge comes in because we challenge ourselves, and the universe challenges us sometimes to see how much we really want something. Sometimes we give up on things very easily. Sometimes we try a little bit harder. So this is the challenge on, are we going to plant the seed and reap the results that we want from our intuition, our dreams, and our abundance that comes from the dreams. The supporting cast members today, we have the challenge for the day is the Wizard, which is timelessness. The like-minded energy is our vision, and the hidden power is our ability to pay attention to the earth and follow along with the synchronicity and navigation provided by Mother Earth. Okay, phrase for today. I polarize in order to target stabilizing awareness. I seal the input of flowering with the lunar tone of challenge. I'm guided by the power of intelligence. And as we mentioned yesterday, we are a galactic activation portal day because we're 4 columns over, 4 rows down. Therefore, we have that moment right here where there's the energies joining together. All right, so there you go. That's our cosmic weather for today. All right, so following along with the 2012 December 21st theme, and we're going to keep going until that moment arrives. This is a piece here. It says, Alert, alert, Mayan calendar is decoded. So I wanted to play this piece because it's relatively new. This gentleman, as you see from this, he's done a lot of mathematical and numerological calculations to come up with some interesting information and patterns that he sees within the Mayan calendar. And so he's going to talk about what those patterns are, and there seems to be something to exactly what he's saying. So check it out, see what you think, make whatever notes you need, and if you have any thoughts on this, please hit me up, let me know what you think. But I thought this made really good sense, and that's why I wanted to share it with you. So here we go.
Hi guys. You'll probably detect a little bit of nervousness in my voice because I haven't held this information for too long before. Obviously I want to get it out, and obviously you're looking at the Mayan calendar, but what is significant about the date 2012, the 21st of the 12th of the 12th, well, you're going to be very shocked that whatever codex this falls in part of, I feel that I've cracked the codex, or the code in which the date rests on, right? So the significance is why that date they chose it. Now, you've seen some of the calculations that I've been doing, right? I came up against another one, which was the 78 times table, right? And what we see is 78 times 1, 78 times 2, but we get numbers which give us these series, 4 series of numbers. 639, 639, 639, 639. If you do it all the way down, right, you also get that number reversed there. But the importance of this is why choose such a date. Now, if I show the evidence of why they chose such a date and what they meant by it was the end of that period, you'll understand the date totally. Now, what I've done, right, is I went 2001, 2003, 2004, all the way down. I added up all these numbers down this side, they come to 24. I added up all these numbers and we get 78, right? And what I've done is, you can see, is those two added together come to 102, and I add 1 plus the 0 plus the 2 gives me the number 3, and I thought that's strange. So I run the calculation through all of the, obviously I've done some more calculations here on those times tables and the repeating numbers, and we keep getting the first, the second and the third cycles repeat. They begin with 369, 369, 369. They go all the way through. As you can see, I've done quite a bit, and we keep having the repeating code come over and over again. But the thing I noticed is that the code, or the numbers, only repeat after each 1,000 years. So what does this mean then, if they only repeat every 1,000 years? Well, quite simply, right, we have a pattern that the Mayans obviously knew about, and I'm going to show you that pattern now, what it reveals. Just bear with me while I go through this so that we can get to it. Okay. So here we've got, this is the time where we're in, 2001, 2003, right, but we get to the bottom, we find that the numbers add to a 3. If we go back 1,000 years and we go, the last time the series 1, 2 and 3s, the repeating numbers appeared 1,000 years ago, we had the numbers add up to a 9. And then if we go to the 1,000 years from this time and we go all the way down, we'll see that the numbers add up to a 6. And then 1,000 years later, 4012, you get 9. 5001, we get 3, and this repeats again and again and again, and we get the system of what we've got there, 369, repeating constantly throughout. So what the Mayans was telling us, right guys, is that 369 had already passed, and 1,000 years ago we was on the 9 of that, and we know from the code that the next one is a 3, right, and that happens in 2012. And the code starts 12, 12, 12, right? So you'll see where I'm going now, and there can be no mistakes about this. The code finally, and the understanding behind the Mayan calendar and why they chose it, and what exactly ends, is the beginning of the code. If we go 369, and then the next one's a 369, and it keeps repeating and repeating, but they've marked the next time it began to repeat, and this is in 3,000 year intervals, you see. 1,000 years, which is from now, right, 2012, another 1,000 years will be the 6, another 1,000 years will be the 9, the numbers in the dates added up, and that's what they built the Mayan calendar around. More importantly than this though, guys, is if we go back, the last system, right, if we go back, right, 3 of these to the last system, it was the time when Syria, or the Sumerians, was about, and we have the Anunnaki, those guys that came from the heavens, and they reckon they was the gods and they lived with them. We're talking 3,000 years ago, guys, and that is probably what was, you know, the Mayans was on about, because they were also aware of people coming from the heavens, because I think it's King Capel who lived with the Mayans at the time and died with them, and they built a sarcophagus of him, and it depicts him on some sort of machine. Now, I know it sounds far-fetched, guys. The code can't be wrong. As you can see, it fits 2012 snugly when the next 369 takes place over the next 3,000 years. The end of the 9 is at 2012, and the beginning of the 3 is also the next day after 2012, which is about 4 weeks away. So the code here, guys, as I've showed you, can't be wrong. There can be no questions about it. It has to be 100% right. But the problem is if we go to the end of this, eventually we'll go to 12,012, right, which is the end of the code, and we get the 144. And if we add that to the 78, we get the 222s, right? And we know from the calculations regarding the 222, the triple figures, what we eventually get is the 666s. Now 144 and the 666s you'll find in the Holy Bible, in Revelations, when something called the bride is supposed to descend. Now you need to think about this, guys. There was bits in the Bible where Ezekiel talks about seeing craft, right, with wheels within wheels. I'm going to leave it here, guys, and please give me your feedback on this, because we're 4 weeks out from this date when the Mayan calendar ends. It ends on the 12th of the 12th of the 12th, not on the 21st, and the reason why I say that is because the Mayans knew it. Remember I said there was 8 of these arrows around the outside, and there was one more, and that's in the inside, and that's when these guys get here, I believe. It could be something to do with the Anunnaki, it could be earthly events, we don't know. Whatever we do know for certain, it is certainly the end of a system and the beginning of a new one. So guys, give me your comments, let me know what your feedback is on this. Bye for now.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
Thank you very much. This is the UFO News for today. I have 5 stories. Let's get to them. Story number 1 comes to us from Princeton, Indiana. This was on the 26th. Let's listen to this report here.
Strange lights appear in the sky, and more tri-staters are asking, what were they? And this is a picture sent to us by Kimberly McCraw. This is what she says she saw outside of her Princeton, Indiana home Thanksgiving night. Brandon Bartlett back from Gibson County now. He joins us with this mystery, Brandon.
Well, David McCraw says she's a skeptic of UFOs, but says she definitely saw something right out of a movie. She grabbed her camera and got them on tape.
So these are like the first ones that I took.
Kimberly McCraw is eager to show anyone the pictures that she took Thanksgiving night in hopes that someone could explain just what she saw in the sky over her home in Princeton.
They just stayed in that one four, all four of them, and they just moved across the sky.
The objects immediately caught McCraw's attention. She even pointed them out to a neighbor who stopped by.
And I was like, what is that? And she kind of turned around and came back, and she's like, that's an airplane. And I said, that is not an airplane.
McCraw says it was just before 7 o'clock when she started seeing these objects rise from the horizon. She says they didn't make a sound. All glowed and changed colors. All were about the same size, and all appeared to just float up into the air.
And they all took the same path, and then sometimes there would be 2, sometimes 4.
In all, she says, there were about 20 to 30 of them that she and her family saw in a period of 10 minutes. And they weren't the only ones to see those strange objects in the sky recently. Some in Henderson and even southern Illinois posted on social media that they saw objects too.
I don't really know what really to think of this.
We took the video to Francis Ridge, a coordinator for the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena. He has experience in investigating these strange sights.
The brightness, speed, rectilinear path, the color, the way they move without bobbing up and down like this, and it would strongly suggest these jack-o'-lantern type balloons.
But Ridge says he can't say for sure what they are. He says they look like a Japanese lantern and says it was definitely not a meteor shower. We want to know, did you see these lights too? If so, we want to know. Just log on to our 14 News Facebook page to let us know.
Oh, I see. Okay, it was a meteor or a Chinese lantern. I see. Uh-huh. Yeah, right. Okay, here we go. Baltic Sea UFO released on video by captain of ship. Okay, remember this story? Hadn't heard about this in a while. This is an update on the Baltic Sea UFO. The captain of the ship that discovered the UFO released the first moving video of the UFO on radar. Most of the time, electronics on the ship shut down for some unknown reason whenever it was over the UFO. So recording it was a constant struggle for him. But this video is much appreciated. He also posted another video on the 3rd, but it does not allow embedding, so I will put the link below. Okay. So here we go. This is the first moving pictures from the object in the Baltic Sea. Alright. Very interesting. Let's see. Okay, pretty interesting. You know what you're looking at? Me either. You know, we're looking under the sea. Is this the object right here? Okay, yeah, obviously this is the object right here. Alright, so check out the video, enlarge it, see what you think. Let's move on. We have over Arizona, a witness driving east on I-40 near Flagstaff reports an explosive burst of light in the sky, followed by the appearance of a laser-like object. This was at 2:15 a.m. on the 25th of November, according to a testimony from the MUFON database. The witness described the initial burst of light as a white-blue color, out of which came a blue laser-like object, followed by more light, sparks, flames crossing the sky and then disappearing. The area was described as dark and desolate when suddenly the sky became bright. Witness says that my attention was drawn to the sky north toward Nevada. The witness stated within approximately 1,000 feet AGL, there appeared an enormous energetic explosion of light, almost blue and white, that cast a shower of sparks somewhat similar to an electrical surge. The explosion seemed to create a ring-like effect, out of which it seemed emerged a large, oblong, glowing object. It had a blue, laser-like appearance. The object rapidly skittered and dashed across the sky westward, covering at least a couple of miles in a matter of only 5 or 6 seconds. It seemed to leave a trail of sparks or some kind of flaring energy. The entire event seemed to end suddenly in another display of explosive light. The sky immediately returned to its normal state, and it was over. All right. There you go. That took place there. Moving right along. Okay, remember the Roswell Incident? Obviously you do. And remember the speculation that there was an interview that took place? Well, this video, there's 2 parts to it. It's an audio book. You could see that this one is an hour and 59 minutes, and then we got this one here, which is another hour and 59 minutes. And what this is, it says the author of the book Alien Interview, Lawrence R. Spencer, is claiming that he had received documents from the late self-proclaimed nurse Matilda O'Donnell, who also asserted that she had access on the recovered extraterrestrial entity and the military. The alien used telepathy as the main medium of communicating with the nurse. According to Spencer, the nurse included a letter in the package he had received, asserting that the documents were taken from a series of interviews with the extraterrestrial being in which he conducted as part of the official role of the U.S. Army Air Force. The extraterrestrial being in the interview was claiming to be an engineer, pilot, and officer of the Domain Expeditionary Force. The race has been using the asteroid belt in the solar system for the past 10,000 years as an intergalactic base of operations. The dying request of the nurse was that the transcripts finally be disclosed to the public. She mentioned in her letter that the documents can answer questions: who we are, where did mankind come from, and what is the purpose of humanity on Earth. Alright, so there you go. Check that out. 2 long pieces to listen to. And one last piece here. Now, we've heard a lot of stuff about the Greys, and you've heard the term, or maybe you have or haven't, Archons. The Bible often has references, like they referenced the other day when talked about the giants, referred to they were sons of Anak, A-N-A-K. Well, what is Anak? Who is Anak? Was that a person? Was that a being? Or is that a name that is a shorter versions of Anunnaki? And so the sons of Anak were actually, sons of the Anunnaki, offspring of them. So these are some of the thoughts that are out there. But we've got the Greys, and there's another thoughts. What's the Greys' role in all this? So it says modern ufology usually postulates that aliens come from another planet or dimension. But what if they've been here since the dawn of time? The Gnostic alien theory by John Lash claims that aliens are archons, devoid and corrupt cousins of man, put here by celestial forces that created humans as well. The archons were whispered about in text after the burning of the Library of Alexandria, and some mention of these mysterious beings. But the powers that be spent 1,300 years cleaning up the records and had written out the archons from history. In 1947, texts were found in clay jars in Nag Hammadi in Egypt, and on these texts was a story of what the Nag Hammadi people 2,000 years ago thought the world was about. The word archon means ruler or primordial. According to a myth, they were created by a celestial interdimensional entity, Sophia, who was Pleroma with other aeons, and thus partly emanation of wholeness of the Heavenly Father. The archons are a spin-off of Sophia and devoid because they had not been approved with the other aeons. This happened billions of years ago, before the solar system was born. These celestial consciousnesses are hard to imagine since they come outside of space and time. A materialized neonate type of archon would appear to be quiet, psychotic, and prone to lying. Okay, so you can see there's a whole long story here about what the archons are and so on. That gives you a little bit of an intro. So check out the article, see what you think. I mean, there's a lot of questions during this period of time, and I think it's kind of cool because maybe a lot of things are going to wrap up, a lot of understandings, explanations, and so on. So we shall find out. All right, I'm going to jump away just for a moment. I'll be back. I got a lot more news, including an interview, part one of an interview with Trisha McCannon. So stay tuned. I'll be right back.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People shouldn't be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of them.
All right, continuing on here. Okay, first couple stories, then we're going to get to the interview. First one here, this is at the White House website. Check this out. We the people now redeclare in 2012 the Declaration of Independence. The petition is for the purpose of a public redeclaration of independence that declares our independence from an illegal U.S. government corporation, thereby restoring our organic and lawful United States government, which puts the illegal U.S. government corporation and its illegal bar association members throughout all three branches of the government on notice, and establishes a mandate by the power and authority of we the people for their immediate removal from office as mandated by the authority of the original 13th Amendment. All right, this needs 25,000 signatures by December 25th. Let's see how many signatures this gets. Remember, we got a lot of signatures that happened on the states that wanted to succeed, and now here we go. So, sign the declaration. Let's see how things are going to wind up. People are getting riled up. Revolution is in the air, my friends. Revolution. Now, you know about this big sinkhole. We've talked about that. Well, officials say an event has occurred at giant sinkhole. Surface appears to be covered in thick black oil. An event occurred at the sinkhole around 11:30 p.m. yesterday, which is being considered as a burp. Vegetated debris and hydrocarbons came up from below the sinkhole. A few trees in the southwest corner did fall in, however. Most of the debris came from below the sinkhole. Texas Brine removed all crews from the sinkhole and is checking the boom surrounding the area to make sure everything is intact. So we need to just keep our attention there and think good thoughts, because that sinkhole situation isn't getting any better, it's getting worse. All right, so here we are, 23 days away from the ending of a cycle, December 21st. We've heard so much information about it. Here's a couple more reference sources for you. This one just simply is called 2012 and the Pyramids at Giza. And this is quite a research, quite a body of work that was done. Yesterday I talked a little bit about it, played part of a video. It has to do with the event that's about to take place over the pyramids, with the alignment of Mercury, Venus, and Saturn, as well as Mars, I believe, is going to be part of that mix as well. But this is quite a bit of research, and it goes on to say, it says, I happen to be one of those people who believe nothing is going to happen in 2012. However, in order to prove that to myself, I have been studying the issue for about 4 years. While studying ancient cultures, I noticed that each of them had a fascination with the planets. The stars are mentioned, of course, but not nearly as much as the planets. So when I saw a video a few years ago talking about Orion's belt being the reason why the pyramids were built, or at least the pyramids were built to honor Orion's belt, to say I did not believe that was true would be an understatement. And so from here, he goes on to talk about his research and the alignment and what that could possibly mean, so on and so forth. Now, I heard a very interesting theory, and has to do with this alignment. So here we've all talked about these belts. These three stars of Orion's belt line up here. But now we're told that there's going to be alignment above the pyramids with Saturn, Mercury, and Venus. Well, if indeed these are the true representatives of this, as this one theory speculates, but this alignment is going to take place, it postulated the idea that perhaps these are imposter or usurpers to the throne, and perhaps indicative of some sort of deception, or perhaps indicative of maybe an antichrist spirit here on the earth. Interesting to note that this alignment is to occur on December 3rd, and that's just 18 days right here, 18 days before December 21st, which, if you break 18 down, one of the ways it breaks down is into 6 plus 6 plus 6. So go through, read this, look at it, look at the research, see what you think. Okay, we're in a period of time here where we're kind of out of the box. We're all figuring out what's going on. I've talked to a lot of people out there, from professional astrologers to psychics to healers, so on and so forth, ufologists, and there doesn't seem to be one actual consensus amongst everybody. There seems to be a lot of idea of what's going to go on, a lot of what we're all talking about here, but there's still the excitement of, even though we all understand, there's still the excitement and the mystery of what really is going to happen. And we're not going to know until those moments arrive. Now, December 21st, that actual date, that actual moment might not be the be-all, end-all. Okay? It might just be one moment in a window of time. So if something doesn't happen, earth-shaking right at the moment of December 21st, don't think that we're out of the woods. I think we're in a window of time here that there's a lot of different things that can happen. But just look at all of the possibilities that we've talked about, from the extraterrestrial influence that's going on, all of these ships that you see up there by the sun. We've got the time wave zero that Terence McKenna has referenced and talked about, which comes to a conclusion on December 21st. We've got the prophecies of Nostradamus. We have the prophecies of Edgar Cayce, Mother Shipton, on and on and on. Then we've got the Mayans and the Hopis and the Aztecs. Something important we need to pay attention to. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of skeptics out there, and we're going to have to deal with these skeptics who are going to be looking for the first sign that nothing is going on. And they'll be the first ones to say nothing is happening. You know why that is? Because I think that skeptics want to know more, because deep down they're really afraid more than everyone else. So they want to find the answer so they're not fearful. That's the only thing I have seen over the years, because of the denial that there is with these skeptics. I can't think of any other reason. Maybe you might be able to think of another one, and if so, share it with me, because I'd like to know. So check this out. Now, moving along here, this is a new crop circle that was discovered just on the 23rd. So there we go. This is a page over at cropcircleconnector.com. They get into a little bit of analysis of what this might be. Okay. And then it goes down here into a bit of this analysis. Alright. So there's one bit of information to check out, and this here is the crop circle, another view of it video. Is this an eclipse? Is this something that is representative of, the eclipse? Is it representative of something else? Not sure, but it's definitely a co-joining or a separation of two things. Is this the separation of dimensions that Dolores Cannon had talked about? Very interesting indeed. Time will tell. 23 days to experience what's going to go on here. Okay, next up, Trisha McCannon. She has been a guest on the show numerous times, and today I did an interview with her over the weekend. I'm going to play part 1 of it now, part 2 tomorrow. This is her website. This is Tricia. And let me go ahead and set this interview up here. Here we go. All right, this is Josh Poet. Welcome to First Contact Radio. I am here with Trisha McCannon. She has been here numerous times before, and this time she is here to talk. All right, this is Josh Poet. Welcome to First Contact Radio. I am here with Trisha McCannon. She has been here numerous times before, and this time she is here to talk about December 21st with us. Hi, Tricia. How are you? Welcome to First Contact Radio.
Hi, Josh. It's always a pleasure to be with you in First Contact. And as you know, this whole Galactic Alignment 2012 is one of the major topics that I've been speaking about really all over America and even in Europe for the last couple of years, because it is definitely a very big event.
Right.
This summer, in fact, I got an opportunity here in Atlanta. I live in Atlanta, but I travel, of course, all over. And I got an opportunity to do a 9-week class, 3 hours each class on this incredible event, because it is a very multifaceted conversation that deals with everything from astronomy and the cycles of time, geophysics, magma changes, magnetic field changes, aurora borealis, the prophecies, of course, of the Mayans and the Hopis and Nostradamus, some of the wonderful work that Dolores Cannon's people have been revealing in hypnotherapy sessions as they've gone forward into the future. It also deals with light body activation, spiritual dimensions, as the Mayans would say, galactic synchronization. It deals with UFOs and the star beings or the elder beings that have overseen the safety of humanity for many, many centuries. So it's definitely a very big conversation. Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to jump in and begin talking about science, because science grounds us. And, you know, people who are involved in the New Age movement have many theories about this because they're intuitive enough to know something's coming. But I think that science grounds us. And so I'd like to talk about the cycles of time as well. You know, I've written a couple of books, one on Jesus and the Great Spiritual Mysteries, one on the angels and the multidimensional nature of reality, and I have about 30 DVDs on many of these subjects. But one of the most, I think, pertinent and timely conversation has to do with what the ancient masters and the mysteries taught about these great cycles of time. And our listeners may know some of this, but let me just do a little review.
Okay.
Just as we have 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 24 hours in a day, 29 to 30 days in a month, and so forth, there are much larger cycles as well. And there is something called the precession, not procession, but precession of the equinoxes. And what that actually describes is a 26,000-year cycle, or 25,920 if we want to be specific, where the sun slowly appears from our point of view on Earth. When we look at it in the spring equinox on March 23rd, we look at the celestial background behind the sun. And over a period of about 26,000 years, it slowly precesses backwards, or it appears that the celestial backdrop behind the sun is moving in an opposite direction from how we see the 12 signs of the zodiac when we look in the paper. When we look at our individual signs, you know, it goes Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, and so forth. In this case, a precession means it appears to move the opposite direction. So, for example, during the time that some of the pyramids were built, we were in the age of Taurus, which was fixed earth. So, consequently, you know, a lot of the monuments that existed then, some of them still exist now. During the time of Alexander the Great and the Roman Empire, and we had 2,000 years, basically, of war during the age of Aries, which is ruled by Mars, the god of war. When Jesus came in, we had the age of Pisces, which was in its high expression, the Christ consciousness, unconditional love, the kingdom of heaven is within, forgiveness is the key, love your neighbor as yourself. Of course, we didn't do so well with that, as we all know, since we had the oppression of the Roman Empire and the Roman Church, who was basically at that time very much involved in the Inquisition for about 1,500 years, suppressing a lot of the ancient wisdom and trying to just simply replace it with their own. And I actually think that the church had a lot of this wisdom and knowledge, but someplace along the way it kind of got lost. And now, of course, we're at the edge between age of Pisces and the age of Aquarius. And Aquarius, of course, is communications, it's space travel, it's airplanes, it's phones, it's laptop computers, it's cell phones. I mean, it's all the incredible things that we're seeing. And we're just at the very edge of the age of Aquarius. So it's an air sign that's all about pouring down the knowledge from the higher heavens into Earth and us awakening to our connection within the galactic or the spiritual community. So, you know, we're just literally in 0 degrees of that. So one of the things that December 21st of 2012, which is the famous Mayan date, is dealing with is the fact that we shift according to, let us say, the Theosophists and the master teachers. They say that we entered 0 degrees of Aquarius, that place between the two ages, in 1939. So since it takes 72 years for us to move 1 degree through any of the 12 signs of the zodiac, and each of the signs are 30 degrees fat, which means that each of the astrological ages, like Pisces or Aries, is roughly around 2,160 years. Some, of course, are a little fatter than others. Some are a little skinnier. So we approximate 30 years. But if you add 72 years to 1939, you come up with 2011. So 2012 would be the very first year where we would be 1 year into the next 72 years moving into Aquarius. So that's one of the things this is about. But within this procession of time, we don't just go around like a flat plate when we go around the galaxy. It takes us about 260 million years to go all the way around the center of the galaxy. That's a really long time. You notice how the 26 repeats, 26,000 years, 260 million years. But we don't just go around like a flat record player. We go up and down like a great sine wave. And so one entire precession means that the sine wave goes up above the galactic equator, it reaches a peak, then it like a hill, and then it comes back down, and then we cross below the galactic equator, and for 13,000 years, or half of 26,000, we're below the galactic equator, and then we begin to cross back over it. So one whole cycle goes up, then it comes down. So where we are right now is we are completing a 26,000 or 25,920 year cycle. When we cross below the galactic equator, that was about 12,000 years ago, or 11,500 years ago. This was during the time of the fall of Atlantis, and we literally fell into the third dimension. When we're in the part of the sine wave where we're below the galactic equator, we fall into the third dimension, and we tend to fall asleep, and, you know, spiritually asleep. It doesn't happen instantly. It's a long, slow process, but that's part of what happens. Now where we are is we are crossing, we're in the 900-year window where we are slowly crossing through the galactic equator above it. And 2012 marks the midpoint, 450 years into this this movement. Now, will something actually happen on December 21st, 2012? That's, of course, the big question a lot of people are concerned about. You know, will we have a pole shift? Will we have a solar mass ejection? Or will we just hopefully be sitting around singing Kumbaya, which is what I vote for? in truth, I don't know if anything will happen. But what the Mayans say is that we are in a 25-year window. So 2012 will mark the beginning of this 25-year window, which takes us out to around, I think, 2037. And during this window, we will have a pole shift. And this, of course, gets into the science of the fact that the poles are melting, the North and South poles, as we know, and there are amazing things that are being discovered underneath that ice and snow, pyramids in Antarctica and lost remnants of lost civilizations that are surfacing. But the magma whirls inside the planet, instead of moving clockwise or sunwise, have now reversed, and they're now going counterclockwise. And this, of course, is what's going to happen not just to our planet, but to all the planets in our solar system as we cross through this galactic window. And we see this already. Uranus and Neptune, the poles have reversed. The red spot on Jupiter is rotating the opposite direction. The poles are completely lit up on Saturn. Even Mars, the permafrost is melting on Mars underneath the surface of the planet. And so this is happening for our entire solar system, and all of us will experience a pole reversal. And as our listeners probably know, we are already 9 degrees. Our magnetic field, or North Pole, has already shifted 9 degrees towards Siberia. So that means that areas like Atlanta are going to get hotter in the summer. But I'd rather be hotter than have 18 feet of snow. That sounds like a tough place to live in, doesn't it?
It sure does.
So this is sort of the beginning of what the masters and the ancients tell us. And they say that these times of, we're ending a world age. And in a way, if you look at it, as if it's, we're graduating from a grade in high school. If during this period of time, basically, a lot of people are dealing with a lot of karma because it's the completion. It's like their exams coming up. The completion of all the good things and also the bad things that they've amassed during the last 26,000 years. They get an opportunity to clean it up. And if they clean it up and sort of reach a higher state of love consciousness or forgiveness consciousness, then they have the opportunity of really graduating up into a more of a, let us say, a higher frequency or fourth dimensional reality. And those who don't, of course, don't really get to graduate, which means that if they perish and leave this planet and this planet moves up into a higher frequency, they won't be continuing to reincarnate on this planet because they can't move with the frequency of the planet. Does this make sense to you?
Okay, yes, that all makes a lot of sense to me. Okay, so that's the science. So what? The
science is behind it, but also there's more to this. So when we get into, what else the ancients say about it, the Greeks, the Etruscans, the Romans, many of these more ancient civilizations talk about the fact that in one transition, when we drop below or above, when we cross the galactic equator, we have what's called a galactic summer or a galactic winter. Now, a galactic winter is marked by a flood, like the Great Flood that we have in hundreds of ancient histories, or an ice age, one of the two. And the Great Summer, the galactic summer, is marked by what's called a solar mass ejection. It's a fire. And so, of course, we have an enormous amount of activity, as we all know, going on right now with our sun. We've got a lot of solar flares, just off the chart solar flares. And there's a lot of reasons why these solar flares are occurring the way they are. Most of our listeners will know that the sun is known to have about 11 and a half year cycle of solar flares. This is its normal pattern. And the reason for this is because Jupiter, which is the largest planet that we know of in our solar system, rotates around the sun once every 11.5 to 12 years. So as Jupiter gets closer to the sun, the electromagnetism between the two of them, its magnetic field, pulls the solar ejections from the sun. And this is why it's on that course. Well, as we can see, and we've had a lot of activities these last couple of years, and we're going to continue to this next few years. And the reason that we've been having this brings us to a conversation about the planet Nibiru. And I'm sure you probably got some pretty sophisticated listeners out there that know about Nibiru, but for those who don't, this is a very large planet. We think it might be larger, actually, quite a bit larger than Jupiter. And it was spoken of course, in the Sumerian cuneiform text and by many ancient civilizations. This is a planet that housed or is the home to what we call the gods, and that's gods with a little g. And these are the civilization makers from the ancient past that brought us everything from writing to herbs, medicine, healing, law, architecture, mathematics, sacred geometry, all of these arts and sciences in seeding our planet. And according to the Sumerian cuneiform texts that were discovered in the city of Nineveh in the 1830s, and over a period of about 100 years were slowly translated and decoded, and that Zacharias Sitchin, who of course is deceased now, wrote 10 books in a series called the Earth Chronicles, where he was one of about 10,000 people in the world that could read these Sumerian cuneiform texts. He examines what they could actually mean in comparing them to now what we know about science and history and astronomy and things that, because we have more sophisticated technology now to track it. What could it mean? Well, in fact, in 1983, NASA discovered a gigantic Jupiter-sized planet out in the outer bounds of Pluto, and it appeared to be moving in towards us. And this is, in fact, what the Sumerian cuneiform texts say, is that every 3,600 years it makes an elliptical rotation, appearing first in the southern hemisphere, where we see it from Antarctica. And this is where, now that the snows are melting, they're discovering all these incredible pyramids. And I'm sure that the gods kept a space station down there, or an astronomical observatory, because this is, in fact, what the legends say. The legends say that Ereshkigal and Negril had a base down there so that they could watch for the movements of their own planet when it came around. So during 2009, 2010, 2011, there are literally dozens of photographs and videos that people took, usually at sunset or sunrise, because that was the only time it could really be seen, because it would be seen in relation to the reflected light of the sun. But, of course, the sun had to be dim enough, like sunset or sunrise, for it to show up, because when the sun's in the sky, it can totally blot out anything else. It's so very bright. But, of course, these things can actually, I talk about these things and show them in my presentations, and it's a mind-blowing. When you actually see it, it takes it from theory to actuality, and it totally shifts your perception. So it took basically about 2 years, 2009, 10, and 11, for Nibiru to pass from where it was being seen with the naked eye in Australia, then India, then Russia and Yugoslavia, then England and New York, then finally in spring of 2011 in Norway. And then it kind of vanished from sight. And, of course, since it moves in an elliptical orbit, we know that it passed at that time, and those solar mass ejections and solar activity were creating tsunamis and earthquakes and a lot of the big things that we had all along the Pacific Rim, and Chile and Canada and Alaska and all of those things, India. And, of course, it's going to return. So the big question is, when does it return? Where are we in relation to it when it returns? How close will it come to us? and how unstable is our magnetic field when it happens. Because if we're stable, it doesn't really, we might have asteroids or some activity, certainly, but we're not going to have a pole shift. But if we are as unstable electromagnetically as we are right now, when you have the passing of such a large planetary body, it's sort of like having a semi-truck go by a person on a skateboard, at 100 miles an hour. It can totally spin the skateboarder around. And since Nibiru moves in a counterclockwise direction, and we move in a clockwise direction, it could actually stop the spinning of the Earth. And just so the listeners have some kind of a comparison in size, if Nibiru was the size of a basketball, we would be the size of a marble. So that's a very big body to be going in the opposite direction. And the real challenge is this: it could stop us stop the rotation of the Earth. And this is interesting because when we look back in the chronicles of history, we discover that there actually are historic cases where it says that the sun stood still in the sky for 3 days and 3 nights. In China, it was light for 3 days. Over in South America, it was dark for 3 days. Even in our Bible, our Old Testament, if you remember, I think it was Joshua or Jericho, where it talks about how the sun stood still in the sky for 3 days. Well, frankly, I can't figure out any other way for that to happen other than that the Earth stops spinning. And then it begins to spin again. And the question becomes, does it spin the same direction or does it spin in reverse? And as we cross the galactic equator, history would tend to indicate that it begins to spin in the opposite direction and that the poles reverse. So all of this together could wind up being, some trouble.
Yes.
I mean, it could be a little devastating for existing systems. And of course, humanity always survives. We do survive these things. It's just that it's like a reset, like a Pac-Man game where you play around and then at the end of the game over, and you get to starting fresh. We get to start fresh with, what kind of society we want to create, what kind of monetary systems, if any, what kind of educational systems. We get to begin again. But of course, for the people who are on the planet at the time that it happens, it can appear to be very scary or very devastating because, of course, it's a change in the status quo.
I guess the point is with all of this, where does the Earthling fit in, and what could the average Earthling do other than bend over and perhaps kiss their ass goodbye?
Well, let me just say a couple of things about this. I know when we start talking about geographical changes of this magnitude, it's very easy for people to get caught in the fear. And unfortunately, that's the last thing that we need to do, because in fact, this is a test. We are immortal. As souls, we are mortal. We've had many lifetimes, we've had many bodies, and we don't really die. Our physical body, of course, dies when we have an accident or an illness, or we, die of old age or something. But, guess what? When we get to the heavenly realms, we review how we did, and then we have a chance to come back if we wish to or we have to, because we haven't cleaned up or completed our karma. However, aside from the trying to shift one's perspective to help with the whole fear component, there's a whole nother component to this that gets into the multi-dimensional aspects of reality.
All right, we're going to get on to that next part of the interview tomorrow. Next part of the interview for tomorrow. And so I hope you enjoyed the first part. I hope you enjoyed that indeed. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to jump over to, I also have a link here to a website for you to check out. It's called Synthesis 2012. Tricia is going to be talking about this tomorrow. She's going to be a speaker at this event, which takes place in Chichen Itza, but you'll hear more about that tomorrow. All right, so that brings us to the end of the show. Time for our meditation. Let's get to it and then get on our way. So go ahead and close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Exhale. Take another deep breath. And exhale. All right, let's imagine that we are all standing outside at night, looking up at the sky. And you look around and you see all of your neighbors are outside looking up at the sky. And as you look at the sky, you see planets and stars moving into position. You feel energies moving around. You sense that there is something about this period of time that is different. Something about this period of time which allows you an opportunity. And as people sense this, they start to think about ways in which they could utilize this energy. So imagine everybody stopping, everybody taking a moment of silence to figure out exactly what it is this moment is about. And as people are contemplating the moment, something changes. It's as if the contemplation itself has allowed the opportunity to expand. And we see everybody expanding in consciousness and understanding. And from this place we send out good vibes to all of those who don't understand what is going on, despite their efforts to try. From this place of understanding, we send out love and compassion to the skeptics, to those who are in denial. We send them a little bit of love and energy to help them perhaps get over that hump, to see a bit clearer. And we make sure our chakras are activated from the bottom of the spine up. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, and indigo. Feel the energy flow through your body. Let the energy extend as it overflows outward. Let it fill the room that you are in, out into your neighborhood, the city, the state, the country, across the sea to all of the other countries around the world and back. And let's just think about the opportunity ahead of us and put out the good thought that everyone on the planet opens their minds and their hearts to experience what is taking place in ways that are unseen. And as we contemplate this idea, we move through life with this understanding. Let us bring our energy and attention back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment, filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment, filled with faith. 1, coming back to the present moment, happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. All right, there you go. Thank you very much for being here. It's always good to be able to share the information here. I hope you enjoyed the first part of the interview with Tricia. The rest of the interview will be up tomorrow, and something to look forward to. If you have any thoughts about what you think is going to be going on December 21st, over this next 23 days, send me an email, firstcontactradio@yahoo.com. Be glad to hear what you have to say. All right? If you have any good information needs to be shared, let me know, and I'll be glad to share it on the show as well. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a great day. Peace. I'm out of here.